All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go through Chapter 6, Pay, Benefits, and Working Conditions. There's a lot here, so I'm going to speed through it pretty quickly. Make sure you read the chapter. If there's anything that you're confused about, you can go back and take a look at the chapter. We're going to look first at understanding pay and benefits, and then look at work schedules and unions. Understanding pay and benefits, we're going to look at payroll deductions and net pay, identify optional and required employee benefits. So when we look first, there are three important things to understand. There's what's called gross pay, deductions, and net pay. So gross pay is the total amount you earn before any deductions are subtracted. Let's say you get a job that is a salary of $80,000 a year. That would be your gross pay. However, that's not going to be what you actually take home because of deductions. Those are amounts that are subtracted from your gross pay. When all the deductions are taken out, then the amount that's left over is your net pay, which is also called your take-home pay. Gross pay also can include overtime. So overtime is a rate that's 1.5 times the regular rate. Depending on how your position is, if it's salaried or not, you may or may not get overtime, depending on if you're tracking your hours or not on your job. So let's say you were working 40 hours and then you worked 4 overtime hours. If your rate was $8 an hour, then your overtime would be time and a half. So that would be 8 plus 4, which would be 12. And then you would then calculate your gross pay to be $320 plus $48, $368 would be your gross pay. Salary may be stated as an annual amount, like I said before. So typically it would be like, let's say $80,000 per year. You're probably, if you're a salaried employee, not going to be tracking your hours. Typically, you will be paid either twice a month, or monthly, or every 2 weeks, or weekly. It depends on your employer and what their plan is. So for salaried employees, if your annual salary is $24,000 a year and you're paid monthly, then you would get 12 pay periods, $2,000 each. If on the other end of the spectrum you're paid weekly, you would get 52 paychecks, and each would be $461.54. So it depends on how often you're paid. Deductions are the amount that are subtracted from your gross pay. Deductions would be things like Social Security, income tax, state income tax, perhaps union dues if you're part of a union, etc. And then the net pay is also known as your take-home pay. It's the amount that's left after all the deductions. It's sometimes depressing to see your gross pay and then what you actually take home, because when you hear what your salary is going to be, it's not actually what you end up getting. If you're self-employed, there are tax payments that you have to make, and you want to think about that. So the self-employment tax is Social Security and Medicare, which is like a medical program that's paid for by the government. The total tax rate is 15.3% of gross income. Benefits and incentives that might be offered by your employers. Profit sharing, paid vacations. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Employee services, things like pensions and saving plans, travel expenses. Those are all other perks to a job that you may get. I'm not going to go through all these in a lot of detail, so I'll just quickly run through them. Profit sharing is basically that you get a share of the profits that your company makes. So the more money your company makes, the more of a share that you get of it. Paid vacation is pretty obvious. You get paid usually for a couple weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks of paid vacation every year. Holidays, there are national holidays that all companies pay people for, and then there are other holidays that many companies consider to be paid holidays. Veterans Day, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, etc. Employee services are extras. So you may get discounts for being an employee of a certain company, parking, wellness programs, etc. Childcare, some companies have on-site childcare, which is a huge benefit if they do. Sick pay, typically you'll receive a certain number, 3 to 10 days a year that are sick days that you will still be paid if you're sick. Some employers allow you to take a leave of absence for a certain period of time, usually unpaid, but you would still have a job when you come back. So it depends on your company's policy. Personal days. Typically, a few personal days are included in your work plan. So these are days that you could take, not being sick, just take to have a day off, but a paid day off. Most large companies provide insurance, which is a really big benefit. You may choose to work for a company that has a lower salary but better insurance and come out sort of better because of that. So things like health insurance, life insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, all things that are really important to consider. And how much you have to pay for that insurance is also something to consider. Bonuses are extra money that you may get for doing really good work or years of service or part of the company's sales. Stock options usually gives you the right to pay to buy stocks in your company at a fixed price that doesn't change over time, despite how well the company might do. So if stock prices are going way up for other people, you may get them at a fixed price still. Pensions are basically money that when you retire, your company will continue to pay you a certain percentage of your salary. And that's called being vested after a certain period of years. Usually, something like 5 years that you work at a company. If you have a pension, you can become vested in it, and then you still get a portion of pay from your company no matter what. These are very rare these days. Typically, there are more employer-sponsored retirement savings. So a 401k or a 403b, essentially every time you get your paycheck, you'll see that you are putting money aside, and your employer may also be putting money aside for you so that when you retire, you'll have money coming in addition to your Social Security check. Some perks include travel expenses if you're traveling. You want to think about these things, these employee benefits. They're generally not taxable, but they provide valuable coverage and advantages, meaning it's not being given to you in taxable income, but it is really important things for you to have. In recent years, benefits have been expanded to meet the needs of different life situations, things like medical and family leave, etc. Okay, 6.2, looking at work schedules and unions. A lot of employers are understanding that lifestyles and needs of their employees are changing over time. And so some employers are turning to more flexible jobs, thinking about things like working from home or different hours based on your availability. Some companies have experimented with different types of work weeks, getting away from the standard 8-hour a day, 5 days a week work schedule. There are two different examples of this: flex time and compressed work week. So flex time is a work schedule that allows employees to choose their working hours within defined limits. So that would be like a core time period that you have to be working, but then the starting and ending times would be more up to you. Compressed work week is a work week that fits the normal 40-hour work week into less than 5 days. So perhaps 10 hours a day for 4 days and then getting 3 days off, or maybe 9 hours a day for a couple weeks and then you get 1 day off the third week. Those are things that are starting to pop up more often. Job rotation is a job where employees are trained to do more than one specialized task. So employees can rotate from one task to another depending on a week, and that can give you more variety, reduce boredom, etc. Job sharing is where two people share one full-time position, splitting salary and benefits. This is a good option if you want to work part-time because it still helps you get payment and benefits, etc. Some employees choose to work part-time, which would be 16 to 25 hours a week. This is good for companies. They save on benefits and salary. Part-time work could provide some benefits, like job security. Sometimes telecommuting or working at home or on the road while staying in contact is a great option, even when there's not a pandemic going on. So a lot of employees today in tech-based jobs or in jobs that allow the use of technology can work from home and telecommute. Okay, labor unions. This is an important thing to keep in mind as you move forward in your career. Labor unions are groups of people who work in the same or similar occupations, and they organize to join together for the benefit of all employees in those occupations. So unions, things like, think about, I'm part of a teachers union. And so in New Jersey, in South Brunswick specifically, we have a union, an education association, it's called. So when new teachers come in, they're recruited by the union. The union will collectively bargain, meaning the union will, as a whole group of everybody in that profession will negotiate salary and benefits and all these different things with the employer. Unions also often support political candidates and encourage their members to vote for particular candidates. Like I said, collective bargaining is the process of negotiating a work contract for union members. So this would be setting work conditions, the wages, overtime rates, hours of work, and benefits that will apply to all members of the union. A grievance can also be spelled out too. A grievance is a formal complaint about the employer. They often provide for seniority rights as well, which refers to length of time on the job, and pay may go up and things like that, promotions, vacation time. There's a lot of different unions. There are craft unions, there are industrial unions, there are public employee unions. Professional organizations as well, they consist of people in a particular occupation, and they're similar to a union, but maybe not quite as formalized. And services for these professional organizations and unions help establish and maintain professional standards. One big thing, too, is lobbying, which is an attempt to influence public officials to pass laws and make decisions that benefit the profession. So the teachers union have lobbyists in Washington, D.C. that meet with congressmen and women and public officials to try to get, teacher-friendly laws passed and all these different things. So those are the basic aspects of teacher unions or unions in general. All right, that's it.